Why, yes, there are other sci-fi podcasts on the web, but they talk about Star Wars, Star Trek, or Doctor Who and pretend they're really into sci-fi. They know nothing. This is Unpopular Sci-Fi, an Atomic Future podcast. Your host is an absolute sci-fi nerd. He knows and talks about anything and everything sci-fi. Sci-fi movies, shows, video games, and not only that, but he digs deep. Welcome in to Unpopular Sci-Fi, an Atomic Future podcast. And now your host, RJ Cervantes.
Hello and welcome back to Unpopular Sci-Fi. I'm RJ Cervantes, and in today's episode, I will be reviewing the 2007 film Transformers. Yes, I know this show is about unpopular sci-fi media, but since the movie Transformers Rise of the Beast is coming out this weekend in the United States, I want to revisit the film that started it all. The film was directed by Michael Bay. According to him, he referred to the project as a stupid toy movie. But he chose to work on the film because it was an opportunity to work with Steven Spielberg. He did later gain respect for the brand. Speaking of Spielberg, he was a fan of the IP, along with writers Roberto Ossi and Alex Kurtzman. Producer Tom DeSanto was also a fan of the IP. According to Tom in an interview with Dreamwatch magazine, he wanted the film to be a homage to 80s flick, stating,
"In all the years of movie making, I don't think the image of a truck transforming into a 20-foot-tall robot has ever been captured on screen. I also want to make a film that's a homage to 1980s movies and gets back to the sense of wonder that Hollywood has lost over the years. It will have those Spielberg-ian moments where you have the push-in on the wide-eyed kid, and you feel like you're 10 years old even if you're 35.
The first draft of the film was considered to be too kiddie. Because of this, Bay increased the role of the military characters in the film. Honestly, I don't know how to feel about that because after rewatching these films, Bay seemed to glorify the U.S. military. I'm not the only one who feels this way. Roberto Ossi and Alex Kurtzman was worried that the movie would feel like a military recruitment commercial. So what's this movie about? Well, Transformers is a well-known movie with a well-known cast. Shia LaBeouf plays Sam Witwicky, Megan Fox plays Michaela Baines, Tyrese Gibson portrays Sergeant Robert Epps, John Turturro plays Simmons, and Josh Duhamel plays Lennox. Those are the human characters. I know there are more such as Sam's parents, but I feel like the audience followed the main human characters more than the others. In the flick, Sam gets caught up in a war between two transforming alien races after discovering that his great-grandfather discovered Megatron, frozen in the Arctic Circle. Megatron, voiced by Hugo Weaving, is the leader of the Decepticons. Who consists of Starscream, voiced by Charlie Adler, Barricade, voiced by Jess Harnell, Bone Crusher, voiced by Jim Wood, Frenzy, voiced by Reno Wilson, Blackout, Brawl, and Scorponok. Those last three Decepticons don't have a voice. I'm sorry. Fun fact, Howard Stern was offered the role of Frenzy, but his agent talked him out of it. I'm disappointed in his agent. I like Stern, and I think it would be funny that a shock jock voicing a transforming radio will be comedy gold. Their ideological opponents are the Autobots, who consist of Optimus Prime, voiced by Peter Cullen, Bumblebee, voiced by Mark Ryan, Jazz, voiced by Darius McCary, Ratchet, voiced by Robert Foxworth, and Ironhide, voiced by Jess Harnell. Transformers isn't high art. It's basic, but it's entertaining as hell. When I decided to rewatch the Bay era of films, I wanted to go in with an open mind. I wanted to see if the first film holds up and if I was harsh on the sequels. Honestly, I'm surprised to find that I still enjoy the first film. The sequels? Not so much. Some backstory. I wasn't a fan of Transformers. I don't even recall if I ever heard of the IP back in 2007. My mom dragged me to see the movie. I was 13 at the time, so I was the perfect age demographic. After seeing the film, I become interested in the IP. I had the soundtrack, I had the Xbox 360 game, I watched the cartoon on Cartoon Network. I even taunt my mother and uncle who grew up watching the original show as kids, saying it's all about the Decepticons. Cringe, I know, but I believed the hype. It was 2007. That same year saw Halo 3, Half-Life Episode 2, and Spanish film Time Crimes being released to the public. Then along came the sequel in 2009. I saw it with my grandpa. We both enjoyed it. Then I discovered movie reviewers. They convinced me that the sequels suck. To make a long story short, I took the opinion of terrible movie reviewers at face value with the rest of the sequels, and I made it my personality for years. What I really like about the film is the CGI. It still looks good as of 2023. I could tell that the Autobots and Decepticons have rate. A perfect example is when Jazz sits on a car in the scene where Sam meets the Autobots for the first time. When he sits, the camera reacts by moving up and down. Some of the CGI is questionable, such as the introduction of Optimus Prime. If you pay close attention to his left arm, you will see it's blue, but throughout the movie it's red. Speaking of Autobots, I like the design of the Transformers. The block look from the cartoon would be out of place with the tone and world in the flick. The designs are grounded and realistic. The G1 designs still look good, but I really can't picture a G1 Megatron design being used. One complaint I have is Sam. He's meh. It also doesn't help that he didn't develop as a character in the sequels. In the first movie, he's just some nerdy kid who wants to impress some girl he likes. I kinda wish Michaela was the main character. She feels more fleshed out. This is a hot take, but I prefer Mark Wahlberg's Cade Yeager from the 4th and 5th films. Sure, he isn't any better, but what I like about Cade is that he can defend himself and he doesn't scream a lot. The film also has rare dialogue, such as the infamous "the ice is freezing faster than it's melting." What is there to say about the first film that hasn't already been said? It's a 16-year-old film and every movie fan has an opinion on it. I still say it's a fun movie that still holds up. It just sucks that it went downhill after the first. A lot of behind-the-scenes issues ruined the sequels for me, especially the second film. It also doesn't help that the sequels gave us Autobots who have no introduction. I can name all the Autobots in the first film, but I can't name anyone else after the first flick. Except for two, Hound and Drift. I know these two names because I can recognize the actor's voice. Hound is voiced by John Goodman, and I like John Goodman as an actor. Drift is voiced by Ken Watanabe. Ken is a good actor as well, but I also recognize Drift because his design is inspired by samurai armor, and he's voiced by a Japanese actor, which is interesting. Luckily, the curse seems to be broken thanks to Bumblebee. Will Rise of the Beast be good? Only time will tell. I'm planning on seeing it this Friday. I give the first film a 3.5 out of 5. If you guys are curious which Transformer is my favorite isn't a Autobot or a Decepticon. This Transformer is a bounty hunter. His name is Lockdown. What I like about him is that he's independent. He doesn't pick sides, kinda like me. It sucks that in other Transformers media, they make him a Decepticon. Lockdown doing his own thing makes the universe a lot more bigger and not a binary. I don't like fictional universes that has a binary, a good versus evil. It's one of the reasons why my favorite video game is Killzone Mercenary. You don't play as a Venkin or a Helgen, but a merc who only means business. What do you think of Transformers? Do you like it or hate it? Do you like the sequels? Let me know on social media and I see you next month.
You've been listening to Unpopular Sci-Fi, an Atomic Future podcast. RJ's passion is anything sci-fi and anything except mainstream sci-fi. We nerd out and dig into the petty stuff, the fun stuff. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on YouTube at Atomic Future and on Twitter at atomic_future. See you next time on Unpopular Sci-Fi.